Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna, we'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Punyavadi Pashtatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare.
Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. We are discussing from Srimad Bhagvatam Canto 4, Canto 3. We are discussing now today 7th chapter will be starting. So in this 6th chapter we heard how Maitreya Muni is explaining, he is answering the questions, and after describing about the Virat Rupa, the creation, then in the end he said, actually I am not worthy, but still whatever my capacity is, I am trying to describe the glories of the Lord. Otherwise the glories of the Lord are unlimited, and if I don't describe, my tongue will become unchaste. And then he said, the only purpose, the highest perfectional gain of humanity is to hear the wonderful pastimes of the Lord, Ekanta Labha, which is Sonupam Sam. And the Lord's glories are so inconceivable that the Lord cannot understand. Mainam api mohinim yat swayam chatma vartmana naved kimutapare. If people of the world cannot understand, and if Lord cannot understand his own glories, what to speak of the people of the world? And then that's how this chapter ended. In the 7th chapter, which is entitled Further Inquiries by Vidura. So in the first section, 1 to 7, Vidurji, he is requesting to clarify misconceptions about Ishwar and the Jiva. So Shukadeva Goswami, he continues the discussion, and he says, okay, we can recite the first verse. Shuka Uvacha Evam Brahmanam Maitreyam Vaipayan Suto Buddha Prinayan Bharatya Viduraha Pratyabhashata.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, by Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking. Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question.
So Maitreya, he had explained that this energy of the Lord, belonging to the Lord glances on it, and this is called as Maya or Pradhan or Prakriti. So when Lord glances on it, then the further creation starts. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Bhagavan, under the influence of, in his Swamsh expansion as Purusha, under the influence of time, offered jivas into Maya, agitated by the gunas. So we know when the Lord glances on the Mahat or on Pradhan, 4 things are impregnated into Pradhan. What are they?
Karma, Kala, Sodha.
Jiva, Kala, Karma and Swabhav. So basically Jiva and Kal, and Jiva has Karma and Swabhav. So these Jivas are impregnated into this Maya or material energy. So Vidurji is saying that you have delivered me from the well of material life by all these wonderful instructions. And now he is asking further things. He says, the next verse, Vidura Uvacha Brahman Katham Bhagavata Chinmatrasya Vikarinah Leelaya Chapi Yujjeran Nirgunasya Guna Kriyah.
Vidura said, "O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete Supreme Whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastimes, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature?"
So basically he is saying that Lord is Nirguna, why he gets involved in the gunas? So Bhagavan Katham, how is it that Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, O Brahmana, Bhagavan who is Nirguna, who is beyond the modes, how he gets connected to the modes of nature? Chinmatrasya Avikarinah. Although he is an unchangeable Lord and he is a complete spiritual whole, Chinmatra. Chinmatra means complete spiritual. Leelaya Chapi. And if this is his pastime, then how these activities take place? So please describe this in detail. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, how can a spiritual entity have activities like creation of the universe with gunas like Sattva, Rajas, Tama? It is a very difficult thing to understand. How can spiritual come in touch with material? It is not possible. And he says, Vidurji has not used the words Chinmay or Chidrupa, but the word Chinmatrasya. This word limits the Lord to only spiritual substance with no trace of matter. So Lord has nothing material in him. He is complete spiritual. The Lord's gross body, subtle body, everything is spiritual only. There is also variegatedness in the spiritual thing, but it is still spiritual. So there is some subtle thing also, but that is subtle spiritual. Gross spiritual, subtle spiritual, but still spiritual. Everything about the Lord is completely spiritual. There is no matter there. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, however, Maya was described in the verse as being Shakti of the Lord. So Maya is the Shakti of the Lord. So because the Lord cannot be separated from Shakti, the Lord must have material gun. So that is his proposition, that Shakti is material and Shakti can never be separated from the Lord. So therefore, Lord should also have some material quality. But how can that be possible? That he has these gunas if he is only exclusively spiritual. Chinmatrasya. So I'm not able to understand how can he be considered completely spiritual if he has three modes? He's working with three modes. How can he be completely spiritual? This is first question. No, it is as if somebody says, I went to the swimming pool and swam and didn't get wet. So how is this possible? It is impossible proposition. So it's just like if somebody does backup service in temple, somebody says, I did backup but didn't take Mahaprasad. So sometimes, most of the times it is not possible. ऐसा नहीं, थोड़ा तो Mahaprasad लेके जाएंगे. So he's asking, he is coming in touch with material nature, but he is not getting affected. How is this possible? That's the first thing he asks. Second thing he is telling is, transformation is caused by time and it is the quality of guna. Guna and kala. Under the influence of these two things, all the transformations happen. But the Lord is purely spiritual. How can he perform actions which indicate change? So change means something material. And Lord is working and there are lots of changes happening in this world. How can Lord be spiritual if he is performing any action? Because action means change. Change means it is not the same thing. So that is the second question he is asking. Just like in the first canto also, the verse comes, Idam hi vishwam bhagavan ivetaro yado jagat sthana nirodha sambhavaha tadhi swayam ved bhavam sathapite pradesh matram bhavatah pradarshitah. Narad Muni is telling Vyasdev, Idam hi vishwam. All this Vishwa, this Vishwa is created by the Lord, Bhagavan Ivetara, and Bhagavan is doing sthana, Jagat sthana, Nirodha Sambhava. Maintenance, creation, maintenance, destruction, it is all done by the Lord. So Lord is doing all these actions. So second question is, if he is performing actions, then how can he be spiritual? So two questions he is asking in this. First, he says, how can he be spiritual if he has gunas? And how can he be spiritual if he performs actions? Because these two things are related with matter. So it is impossible for him to have gunas and actions, but they do appear if the Lord has pastimes. So if he has pastimes, then it is impossible for him to avoid guna. If somebody is working in this world, somebody is doing pastimes, so that means guna will come and actions will come. But still you are saying he is not affected. How is this possible? So that is the question. How Lord is not affected by all these material activities. So Prabhupada writes in the similar terms, the difference between super soul and the living entities is that activities of the Lord are performed by the Lord through the agencies of energies. The Lord is therefore master of energies. Vidura is clearing the misconception that when the Lord descends, either on the earth, in his incarnation, or appears himself, he too is subjected to influence of Maya, just like ordinary being. So please clarify this doubt, because he is working, he is acting, so he should be, getting affected. The Lord is but chinmatrasya. He is completely spiritual. He is nirguna. So how can the activities be, still be called as spiritual activities of the Lord? So that is the question which he is asking. So Prabhupada writes about how the energies of the Lord are working, doing everything. Bhutva praliyate. All the spiritual and all the material world is created, destroyed. But the internal potency is not destroyed. That is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. That is always there. Then Prabhupada writes, spiritual world is transcendental even to material goodness, and thus it is unchangeable. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada gives an example. Somebody can read this. A juggler or a magician.
The juggler or magician displays many wonders with his acts in art. He can become a cow by his magical practice, and yet he is not that cow. But at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord because it is an emanation from him, but at the same time, that manifestation of potency is not the supreme law. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and the potency always remain the same. They do not change even when displayed in the material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends to the earth by his own internal potency, and therefore there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated.
Where it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Lord descends by his own internal potency. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya, I appear by my own internal potency. So there is no question of his getting materially contaminated. So Prabhupada gives a very wonderful example of a juggler or a magician showing different tactics, but still he is different from those tactics. Similarly, the Lord may be acting in this world, but still he does not get affected by it. Etad ishanamishasya prakriti-sthopi tadgunai na yujyate sadatmasthai yatha buddhi tadashraya. The Supreme Lord never gets affected. And then Prabhupada gives another example. How Lord is nirguna. Nirguna means he doesn't have material qualities. And he gives example of a king Restrictions of prison house are applicable to prisoners, but the king is never affected by such implications. Sometimes the king also enters. One time, one country's prime minister went to a mental asylum to see what is happening. So one of the persons, he said, "Oh, who are you?" One of the patient's mad person. He said, "I am prime minister of this country." So this person said, till last few months, I was saying the same thing. You stay here, you'll get cured. So when people think, oh, this person has come in this world, that means he's also one of us. So that's why Krishna says, Avajananti Mama Mudha Manushim Tanumashritam. Lord never gets affected by such implications. He may come in and go out as per his will. And then Prabhupada writes about Chinmatratva. The very word Chinmatratva is the guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental. So therefore Vidura inquired how Lord's activities can be in the modes of nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by persons with a poor fund of knowledge. And that's what Mayavadis also say. The absolute truth, when it is covered by the mode of goodness, becomes a avatar. So that is this proposition of Mayavadis. Okay, then he asks the next question in the third verse.
The Chinmaya, Chidrupa, and Chinmatra. So Chinmaya is also, what is the actual difference of these three? Matrasya means, what is it? I don't understand Hindi or Sanskrit of this. Why it is being mentioned in a special? What is the difference between
Chinmaya or Chidrupa? That's what Chakravarti Thakur writes. Chinmaya or Chidrup, he is not using Chinmaya or Chidrup, but Chinmatrasya. That means Chinmatra, matlab only material. So Chidrupa, it may be indicated that there is some material that is implicated here. It is not mentioned clearly. So Chidrupa means there may be some material traces, but Chinmatrasya means there is no material at all. So that is what is mentioned by these words. I also don't know the Sanskrit details of it, but that is what is implicated by this. He's saying the word limits the Lord to only spiritual. Chinmatrasya means there is only spiritual substance. And Chinmaya or Chidrup, Matra means, matlab, ye matra itna hi hai, matlab there is only this. Yes. Chinmatra. Kridayam udyamorbhasya Kamashikridishina yataha Chikridi sanyataha. Okay. Swatastriptasya cha katham Nivrittasya sadanyataha.
Boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with regular diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self-satisfied and it has from everything at all times.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes something more in the previous verse. He writes a big purport to it. He gives the example of Bhagavan. Jnana Shakti Balaishwarya Virya Tejam Shasheshatah Bhagavad Shabda Vachyani Vina Heyair Gunadibhi. The word Bhagavan means to be endowed with these six opulences without any inferior gunas. That is Bhagavan. There is no material gun in Bhagavan. And he says the Bhaga indicates that six great qualities are purely spiritual. So these are the Swarupa Lakshan of the Lord, the chief qualities. And they are not the transformation of material gunas. The qualities of Bhagavan are secondary qualities because they are material. If somebody says like this, it is wrong. So qualities are completely spiritual qualities. All these, Lord may have Aishwarya, so somebody may say, we also have Aishwarya. So I am material, my qualities are material. Material wealth, material fame, material beauty. But Lord's qualities are not material. It is all spiritual. That is what he mentions. One may say that Indra possesses Maya and that Indra becomes a bull by Maya's power. This means that there is an appearance of a bull belonging to Indra created by himself. Similarly, in saying that Lord has Maya, the Lord becomes the universe by the use of Maya. This means the Lord has a universal form made of Maya, but this is not the Lord. So basically, when Indra creates a bull, it is not that it is Indra himself. The bull and the Indra are different. Similarly, the Lord creates this material world. So this material world and Lord are different. So then, third question he asks is, Lord is Atmaram. Why is he acting? Because boys play Kridayam. In the matter of playing, boys are very enthusiastic. They can play whole day because they get some satisfaction out of it. The act of playing gives satisfaction. But Lord is already Atmaram. Why is he playing? Why is he creating this world? So that is the question. If he is Atmaram, why is he acting? Kama Chikridishanyataha. So the willingness to play in the boys come because they have a desire to enjoy. But Lord is Satatripta. He is Atmaram. He never gets, he doesn't need anything. So how does the desire to play arise in the Lord? That is the third question he is asking. So Prabhupada writes that Lord creates everything. Mayatvam idam sarvam jagatapyaktamurtina. So everything is resting in him. So why Lord is creating this? That is the third question. And then he continues in the fourth verse. He says, Lord does creation, maintenance and destruction. Why is he acting in such difficult and elaborate way? इतना सब कुछ क्यों कर रहे हैं? अस्राक्षीत भगवान विश्वम गुणमय्यात्ममायया तया संस्थापयत्येतत् भूयः प्रत्यपिधास्यति.
By his self-sheltered potency of the three modes of material nature, the Lord has caused the creation of this universe. By her, he maintains the creation and conversely dissolves it again and again.
So how the Lord is creating, maintaining, destroying again and again, Chakravarti Thakur writes, one cannot hide the fact that Lord does not have gunas and actions. It is well known. So you cannot say the Lord has no actions. He doesn't do it. He is doing such a big job of creating this world, maintaining, destroying. Creation means passion, maintenance means goodness, annihilation means passion. So all these are there. So how come Lord is working and he is not affected? That is the question. So after asking three questions about the Lord, now he asks two doubts about the living entities. In the 5th and 6th verse, he is asking about the living entities. So he asks the same questions. The Jiva is pure. How the pure Jiva becomes engaged in Nishayans? Similar questions Parikshit Maharaj asked in the 8th chapter, 2nd canto. What was the question? The first question Parikshit Maharaj asks in the 8th chapter, 2nd canto. The Jiva is spiritual. How the Jiva can come in touch with the material nature? So what Shukdev Goswami replies? Na ghater tarth sambandha swapna drashtur ivanjasa. It is just a dream-like situation. There is no relationship. So here also he is asking the same question. Deshatah kalato yosav avasthatah svatonyatah anyatah aviluptav bodhatma sayujyetat jaya kritkatham.
Your soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness. Is it due to circumstances, time, situations, dream, or other causes? How then does he become engaged in nature?
So that is the question. Prabhupada writes, the consciousness of a living being is always present and never changes. He forgets his personal identity, even though he is placed in an awkward situation. How then can the living entity be forgetful of his real identity as the spirit soul? Prabhupada doesn't wait for Maitreya Muni to answer. The conclusion is that living entity is influenced by avidya. पता नहीं आगे वाला पढ़ेंगे कि नहीं, पहले ही मैं बता देता हूँ. They are influenced by avidya. That is the last line. So Prabhupada writes about that in detail. The conclusion is that living entity is influenced by avidya, as confirmed in Vishnu Puran and Bhagavatam. The living entities are para prakriti, aparayam idastvanyam prakriti vidhime param. So potent can exhibit many potencies, but the potency cannot equal the potent at any stage. One potency may be overcome by another potency, but to the potent, all potencies are under control. The jiva potency has the tendency to be overpowered by external potency. Avidya karma sangyaya. Tritiya shakti ishyate. This word comes. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, 3 questions he is asking here. First, how can jiva be bewildered by maya? Second, how can jiva, whose awareness cannot be destroyed by place and time, become associated with ignorance? He is Satchidananda, right? So how the Chit Vastu becomes covered with ignorance? And how can jiva lose knowledge in association of ignorance? So please tell me. And he says, the jiva becomes affected by place, just as the seed sown in the barren lands does not grow. Jiva is influenced by time, just as lightning is affected by time. It is affected by conditions, just as memory is affected by conditions. It is influenced by nature, such as sleep is. It is influenced by other objects, just as the pot is affected by other objects. He gives 5 examples how the jiva gets affected in this world. But jiva is spiritual. Ye sab kaise ho raha hai? We can see the effect, but I am not able to understand the relation. How is this happening with the living entity? That is the first question which he is asking. 6th verse. Bhagavan ek evaisha sarvashetreshu asthitah amushya durbhagatvam va klesho va karamabhikutah.
The Lord and the super soul is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery?
भगवान है फिर भी इतना प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, क्या चल रहा है? What is this happening? So it is as if police commissioner is staying in the house, but still the thief is stealing. What is this happening? So how is this possible? So सबसे पहले तो आत्मा is सच्चिदानंद, and on top of that परमात्मा is बगल में. Still इतना सब कुछ problem. Why living entity is suffering? So this is a $1 billion question. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? So Prabhupada writes, he gives the example of Dvau Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Saman Vrikshay Purusho Nimagno. Okay, somebody can read from here. A citizen of the state may be in the miseries.
A citizen of the state may be in miseries for want of sufficient supervision by the state authority. But how can it be possible that a citizen suffers from the other citizens while the chief of the state is personally present? From another point of view, it is understood that the jiva living entity is qualitatively one with the Lord, and thus his knowledge in the pure state of life cannot be covered by innocence, especially in the presence of the Supreme Lord. How then does the living entity become subjected to ignorance and covered by the influence of Maya? The Lord is the father and protector of every living entity, and he is known as the Bhutaprut, or the maintainer of the living entity. Why then should the living entity be subjected to so many sufferings and misfortunes? It should not be so, but actually, we see that it happens everywhere. This question is therefore put forward by Vidura for solution.
So very, very logically, very nicely, he is asking why this is happening. I am not able to understand. So he says two things. Jiva is qualitatively same. And it is not that Lord Chakravarti Thakur writes, Lord is not like an irresponsible king who appoints someone and he himself is joined there. He is personally present everywhere. He is situated in all the jivas as Paramatma. Still the jivas are suffering. Why is this is happening? And basically he is only responsible for all this administration. So he is not delegating. So why the problem is coming? Though the Lord resides in all jivas, why does the jiva have misfortune or destruction of the bliss? The word used is durbhagatvam, how they become unfortunate. And karma bhihi, why they suffer from ignorance. So please clarify all these doubts because these are very, very crucial questions. Then he continues. Etasmin me mano vidwan hidyate jnana sankate tannah paranudha vibho kashmalam manasam mahat.
परान्दो विभो युष्मालं मानसं
And Lord one, my mind is greatly illusioned by the distress of this science, and I therefore request you to clear it up.
Etanme mano vidwan, O learned one, khidyate, I am troubled by seeing all this distress of living entity. That is the nature of a compassionate, devotee. He always feels for the pain of living entities. That's why in the beginning only Vidurji asked the question. First question which he asked is to Maitreya. In the beginning, anything related to, he asked something related to living entities. Sukhaya karmani karoti loko natai sukham vanya duparamamba. He is not asking about paramam sthiti of the Lord. He asked about why people are suffering in this world. So that is the compassionate nature of the devotees. Jiva Daya is very, very prominent. And at a level of sadhaka, the Jiva Daya, which we do in the form of preaching, it is not driven by actually Jiva Daya. It is driven by the instructions given to us by superiors. Because as such, there is no Jiva Daya. But we have heard about the importance. That's why we do preaching. But the more we get purified, the more we understand the glories of the Lord, and the more we get in tune with the Lord, the preaching is the natural outcome of a person whose heart is satisfied with Krishna. It is not a forced thing. Just like Srila Prabhupada, even if in the last days, it comes that when in 1977, it is like August, and Prabhupada had high fever. And in the middle of the night, he gets up from his sleep and he says, we should challenge these scientists and we should tell them and we should defeat them. So this devotee was there nearby and he was thinking, Prabhupada, in the middle of the night, he is getting up and he's still in the mood of preaching, although he has high fever. That is the mood of a devotee who is really a purified soul. He always feels compassion. So although Vidurji is having no such misconceptions, he knows all the answers, but he is asking so that we can understand. So Prabhupada writes, such mental bewilderment as represented here by Vidur takes place for some living entities, but not for everyone. For if everyone were bewildered, there would be no possibility of a solution. So that means it is affecting almost everyone, few are left. That is actually the other way around. Only few devotees, they can understand that, actually we are not this body, we are soul. Just like in that Namam Dushkritno Mudha Prapadyante Naradham. वो कितना percentage लिखते हैं प्रभुपाद उसमें? How many are Naradhamas in the world? 99.9, you know, he writes 99.9% of the people are Naradham in this world. So that's how percentage is. So Prabhupada very, politely writing here, not for everyone, but almost everyone is bewildered. Only few liberated souls can see the actual reality. Okay, so now when Vidurji, he asks questions, Shukdev Goswami, he speaks. Shri Shuka Uvacha Saitam Chodita Shatra Tattva Jigyasuna Munihi Pratyaha Bhagavachittaha
Pratyata Bhagavachita
Mayan Divagatasmayaha.
Namyan Iva Gatasamaya. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King Maitreya, being thus agitated by the inquisitive Vidura, at first seemed astonished, but then he replied to him without hesitation, since he was fully God conscious.
Maitreya being thus agitated, Saitam Chodita Shatra. Shukdev Goswami is using a very nice word. Agitated, Chodita Shatra. Agitated by inquisitive Vidura. Tattva Jigyasuna Munihi. Vidura agitated Maitreya. But Pratyaha, he replied, because Bhagavat Chittaha, he was fully God conscious. Smayan Niva Gata Smaya. At first, he seemed to be astonished, but then he replied without hesitation. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, thinking of how to resolve these questions, Maitreya remembered the Lord, Bhagavad Chittaha, and then he got the answer. Externally, acting surprised, he seemed to say, oh, these are difficult doubts to resolve. However, he had actually resolved the doubts. So a devotee, he knows the answers. Externally, one may act in a way, "Arey baap re, itna mushkil question pucha hai," but he knows the answers. In one place, it is said, this comes that when Parikshit Maharaj asked question, also when Maitreya Muni, Vidurji asked a question, Maitreya Muni, he behaved as if he didn't know, but he then very nicely answered. Another place also it same things happen. So externally he was acting as surprised, but still immediately he came to know, because Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Evam Vigyatam Bhavati. Prabhupada writes, one who knows Krishna, he knows everything. That does not mean, one person asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, you know everything you are telling. How many windows are there in the Empire State Building? So Prabhupada said, how many? So he said, he told something very similar. How many grains of sand are there on this planet? So he said, that is not the way I am saying that I know everything. When a spiritual master knows everything, that means he knows everything required to go back home, back to Godhead. It is not about the maths and the science and biology and physics, chemistry. So that's how a devotee knows the Lord, and he knows how to practice devotional service. Prabhupada writes, anyone who is a devotee of the Lord knows about the Lord to some extent, and the devotional service to the Lord makes him able to know everything by the grace of the Lord. So devotee knows everything means he knows the essence of all knowledge. Second canto, 10th chapter ka naam kya anyone remembers? Last chapter, 10th, second canto. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So koi biology wala bolega kidhar hai mera answer batao usme. No, it is not this way. Bhagavatam knows the answer. All the questions means all questions related to our spirituality, how to perfect our life. That will be answered in Bhagavatam. So it may seem that devotee doesn't know something, but they know what they need to know. One devotee one time asked Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he was serving in GEV, Govardhan Eco Village, and he asked Maharaj, there are so many services here, and because you have started this project, so we are working, we are serving here, but how can we know that you are aware of our services? That you know, so that we also feel satisfied. Okay, Guru Maharaj knows everything. So Maharaj said, do you believe in Paramatma? So he said, yes, Maharaj, we have heard, we know. So he said, by the grace of Paramatma, whatever is needed for the spiritual master to be known, he will come to know. You be rest assured and continue serving here. So that's how we should not think, पता नहीं इनको मालूम है कि नहीं कि मैं सेवा कर रहा हूँ इतना सारा, I am working day and night only because यस्य प्रसादात भगवत प्रसादो, and गुरुदेव तो आ ही नहीं रहे हैं, इतने 2 साल के बाद आए हैं. So is he aware of how many services I am doing, how much struggles I have? He knows whatever is needed to know by the grace of the Lord. One time Garg Muni Prabhu, when he brought first dictaphone, and it was a very complex thing. So he learnt everything and he brought and told, Swamiji, I have brought this dictaphone for you. So he said, Prabhupada said, oh, great. So I said, Swamiji, can I tell you how it works? Prabhupada said, don't worry, I'll figure out. So he was confused. मुझे आधा घंटा लगा समझने how he'll figure out. And after few minutes that night, Prabhupada was using very nicely. So he was amazed how Swamiji knew everything. He knows everything needed. So that is how spiritual master knows whatever is needed by the grace of the Lord. He said, just leave it and you go. I'll see to it. I'll know how to work, how to handle this. That's how spiritual master is. And that was the case of Prabhupada with many things, whether it comes to material transactions and dealing with the lawyers and handling money and everything. Even medical treatment, Prabhupada was expert in everything. So anyways, one may say that Prabhupada had a background of it, but still, what is needed, that Krishna inspires him to do. Okay, so now after this, Maitreya Muni, he answers the first question. He says, these are illogical statements about the Lord. Whatever you are saying is illogical. That how can Lord who is acting, still he is not affected? It is illogical. Maitreya uvacha Seyam Bhagavato Maya
Bhagavato Maya
Ishwarasya Vimuktasya
Ishwarasya
Karpanyam
Tasya
Mutabandhana.
Karpanyamutavandana. Sri Maitreya said certain conditioned souls put forward the theory that the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is overcome by illusion or Maya. At the same time, they maintain that he is unconditioned. This is against all logic.
So how can these two be possible? How can Supreme Lord Brahman be overcome by illusion? That is what Mayavadis say. So it is not a fact. Because when Vyasadeva, he saw Krishna in his meditation in the 7th chapter, 1st canto, what did he see? 1st canto, 7th chapter. So, 1 साल हो गया.
Maya also by the side.
He sees Krishna in the front and Maya in darkness. Right.
Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatad apashrayam. Similar verse comes in the 2nd canto also about Maya and Krishna. Anyone remembers something? Maya Devi. She is ashamed to come in front of the Lord, therefore she is standing in the back. Vilajyamanaya yasya sthatum iksha pathe amuya vimohita vikathante mamaham iti durdhya. Brahma is telling to Narad Muni. Why she is ashamed? Yeah, because she is doing the job of making people averse to Krishna. That's why she is. She feels like that. Although that is a thankless job she is doing. सबको भेज देंगे एक साथ तो उधर problem हो जाएगा. It is like if everybody is allowed for a very intense yatra, just like when Radhana Swami Maharaj takes Kartik Yatra. In any yatra there is a rule, 16 mala wale, 8 mala wale. If a newcomer also comes, So there will be a rasabhas there. If we go in the self same body in the spiritual world with our current conditionings, what will happen? What all may happen? अगर भगवान बोले चलो आपको इसी में भेज देंगे आपको with current mindset, what will happen?
You cannot go.
No, what all will happen?
You will burn out of
Die
it.
of your envy.
We will die of envy. We will die of envy. बोले इतना सारा कैसे भक्ति कर सकता है? How is he such a pure devotee? How is he not getting exhausted? So that's how it is. That's why she is ashamed. I am taking people away from Krishna. That is actually, she is testing Krishna. So, Vimohita Vikathante. Somebody asked Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that, I saw Krishna. Saraswati Thakur ko bola matlab. So Saraswati Thakur asked, oh, did you see Maya also behind? He said, no. That means you didn't see Krishna. If you saw Krishna, व्यासदेव बोल रहे हैं कृष्ण दिखी तो माया भी दिखनी चाहिए पीछे. If you didn't see Maya, that means you didn't see Krishna. So the sun causes clouds, but the sun never gets covered by the cloud. Who gets covered? We get covered. Our vision gets covered. So sun rays are covered by the cloud. Sun never gets covered by the cloud. So living entity gets covered. Supreme Lord never gets covered. So Prabhupada writes, it appears sometimes that Supreme Lord, who is 100% spiritual, cannot be the cause of illusory potency. But factually, there is no doubt that illusory potency is also part of the Lord. Vyasdev saw. He's quoting this verse, Bhakti Yoga Manasi. And it is analyzed by great acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami. Although the material illusory energy is distinct from the spiritual energy, it is one of the many energies of the Lord. There is in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is described in great detail about Parinamavad and Vivartavad. Have you heard of this two terms? Parinamavad and Vivartavad. So Vyasdev's philosophy is Parinamavad and Shankaracharya says it is Vivartavad. So in simple terms, what it is, Vyasdev says Supreme Lord does not get transformed. The energies get transformed. That is Parinamavad, which is the right understanding. But Shankaracharya says no. Supreme Lord himself gets transformed because Supreme Lord is impersonal Brahman. He has no energies. So how the energy will get transformed? So therefore himself, Lord himself gets transformed. That is called as Vivartava, the philosophy of Mayavadis. So that is wrong philosophy.
So they feel that the Lord is also under the influence of goodness.
So that's what they say, na? When absolute truth gets covered by ignorance, it becomes the matter. Absolute truth covered by passion becomes the living entity. Absolute truth covered by goodness becomes an avatar. So for them, everything is material. So that is their understanding. But it is not the case. The illusory energy is distinct from spiritual energy, but it is still the energy of the Lord. Energy and energetic are non-different. But although such energy is one with the Lord, Lord is never overpowered by it. So that is the understanding. And then Prabhupada gives this example of Daridra Narayan. People say, oh, ye bhi Bhagwan hai. And that is their understanding. Lord has become this Daridra Narayan. Worship him. And then he gives another example. They say that although sun is light, though the sun is all light, clouds, darkness and snowfall are all part and parcel of sun. Without the sun, there is no possibility of sky being overcast by the clouds. So because sun is there, all these manifestations are also there. But the sun never gets covered by all these things. They also remain separately. So that is the understanding. He says, again, he describes the same thing. The clouds, snowfall can cover the sun rays, but can never cover the sun itself. Similarly, The living entities, they can get covered, the Lord never gets covered. It is a ridiculous argument if somebody says Supreme Lord is overpowered, because Krishna says, where in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, I am controlling this material nature? Maya adhyakshena prakriti, in my adhyakshata it is happening. So that is the first thing which he answers, that Lord never gets covered by illusion. This is against all logic, just like the sun never gets covered by the cloud. Now he answers the inquiries about the jiva in the 10th verse. Why the living entities are suffering? Why they are in distress? Paramatma बगल में है, ये सच्चिदानंद, फिर भी क्यों इतना परेशान है? यदर्थेन विनामुष्य पुंस आत्मा विपर्ययः प्रतीयत उपद्रष्टुः श्वशिरश्छेदनाधिकः.
The living entity is in distress regarding his self-identity. He has no factual background, like a man who dreams that he sees his head cut off.
So here the other example is given. So in the second canto, he gave the example of a person who is sleeping. He sees something in the dream. And here he is telling a person who is seeing his own head being cut off. कैसे देख सकता है? If the head is cut off, how can he see? But he can see where? In the dream. So that is how it is all a dream state. So jiva is suffering because of misidentification. So there is no other cause of suffering. So jiva is spiritual, but because he starts misidentifying. And Prabhupada gives a wonderful example. He says sometimes छोटे बच्चों को टीचर बोलता है, if you continue to make this mischief, I'll cut your head and hang it on the wall and you will see your head hanging. प्रोपाद में कैसा कैसा एकदम एग्जांपल देते हैं, मतलब स्कूल के टाइम्स में किसने बोला रहेगा उनके टीचर ने. And the child becomes fearful and stops his mischief. So similarly, the miseries of the pure soul is because of misidentification. And then Prabhupada describes that in a little more detail. A living entity is eternally subordinate, but he thinks that he is God. So if it is true that there is actual destruction of the knowledge by Maya, then Maya should be punished by the Lord. But this is not the case. Maya is not responsible for our suffering. We are responsible for our suffering. When a living entity first comes in this material world, the first thing which happens is misidentification. He starts identifying with the body. He gives up his knowledge of Jivera Swarupa Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. He forgets that. That is the first thing which happens. And he starts identifying with this world. And then two layers of coverings are given, the subtle body and the gross body. So that's how she is not responsible. She is just facilitating our desires. Who are the three doers? Bhagavad Gita. Three doers in this world. The living
Three modes
entities.
of material nature.
Okay, the modes of the material nature is one doer. Who else? The living entity is the doer. Supreme Lord is the doer, and material nature is the doer. Out of these three, who is the responsible cause? Most important. The living entities, because they desire. Yes. Because they desire, they are the initiating cause. And the Lord is the sanctioning cause. And the material nature facilitates. So therefore, Maya is not responsible. Supreme Lord is not responsible. Only Jiva is responsible because we misused our desire. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, one may forget that one has a jewel locket hanging over one's chest and lament that one has lost the jewel. So Chakravarti Thakur gives the example. One may have a locket, a very costly jewel around his neck, and he is thinking, "Arey, pata nahi kahan hai?" You know, it happens sometimes, right? We have something with us, and हम लोग खुद ही ढूंढते रहते हैं, किधर गया, बोले पहना हुआ है, you know, चश्मा पहना हुआ है. So that's how. Or he says, perhaps I get accused of theft by mistake, though it is not my fault, and get punished by state officials. But because of Jiva's association with beginningless ignorance, the Jiva forgets his knowledge and bliss and identifies with the body. And that's why he becomes Durbhaga. Durbhaga means unfortunate. And that's why he suffers. So that is the cause of suffering of a living entity. There is no other cause. Only our misidentification creates misfortune, unfortunate situation. And the entire process of Krishna consciousness is to make us understand what is our real fortune. Otherwise, till the time we don't realize this, we will keep on working for that which will create just distress, not fortune. Ekanta labham, last week we heard this. Ekanta labham vachasonu pumsam shushloka maule gunavadamahu. This is the only fortune a living entity can get in this material world. He gives another example to explain how Jiva misidentifies. He says, just like a moon which is reflected on the water appears to tremble. Moon is not trembling, but the reflection is trembling. Similarly, when we start associating with matter, something happens to the matter, we suffer. Yatha jale chandramasaha kampadistat krito gunaha drishyate sannapi drashto
Dushyate sapati dusto duratmo dustoratmo.
So the self associated with matter appears to be qualified as you.
So that is another simple example. The moon never comes in touch with the water. It is the reflection which is trembling. So if somebody thinks, oh, moon is trembling. No, it is not the fact. Only a foolish person will think the moon trembles. And Prabhupada writes, a wonderful example, he says, the light of the moon on Taj Mahal appears to be more beautiful than the same light in wilderness. Although the light of the moon is same everywhere, due to being differently appreciated, it appears different. Similarly, light of the Lord is equally distributed, but due to being differently received, it appears to be different. One should not therefore accept the reflection of the moon on the water as actual. The quivering quality is only because of the water. It is not associated with the moon. So it is illusion if somebody thinks that I am suffering. Not to the extent we identify with something of this world, we suffer. That's why living entities who are liberated, they never suffer. They go through the problems, but they don't suffer. They have some problems with their body, but they're not suffering out of it. Miseries are compulsory, suffering is optional. So the pure liberated souls, they never suffer because of the problems of this world, because they understand that I am not this body. Okay, next verse. So that now, after this, Maitreya Muni, he proposes a solution. How a living entity will be delivered? That is the problem. You give the solution. You have told the problem, misidentification. What is the solution? So he gives a solution. Only one solution. सब चीज की एक दवाई है. क्या है? Devotional service. सब चीज के लिए एक ही आंसर है. स वै निवृत्ति धर्मेण
वासुदेवानुकम्पया
भगवद भक्ति योगेन
वासुदेवानुकम्पया
भगवद्भक्ति योगेन
तिरोधत्ते शनैरिह.
भगवद्भक्तियोगेन
तिरोधत्ते शनैरिह.
तिरोधत्ते शनैरिह
That misconception of self-identity can be diminished by gradually by the mercy of personality of Godhead, Vasudev, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. Hare Krishna.
So in the next three verses, he is giving the solution. In 12, 13, 14, he is giving the solution. Savai nivritti. So that ignorance, shanay tirodhatte, gradually disappears. It doesn't happen overnight. Any examples of how bhakti gradually purifies? Any example we have heard, we have discussed? How bhakti gradually purifies the subtle body. Given the example of digestive fire anytime. How digestive fire digests the food very gradually. The three qualities are mentioned. The digestive fire, bhakti is like a digestive fire. It is compared to digestive fire because of three reasons. So when we eat something, digestive fire gradually digests the food. It doesn't happen, immediately. Abhi khaya, next meal ready. No, it takes time. Second, digestive fire specifically destroy the bad things and absorbs the nutrients. Similarly, the process of devotional service destroys the bad qualities and imparts good qualities. Yasyasti bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate sura. The bhakti appears, what is that? Bhakti, Paraisha and Anubhava and Virakti. Bhakti, Paraisha, Anubhava and Virakti. Three things come automatically. So first is, it takes time. Second, it creates good qualities automatically. And third, a person does not have to do any extra endeavor to digest the food. Unless the digestive system is not good. So a person who is practicing bhakti, he does not have to do anything else to get liberated. A devotee already is liberated. He naturally gets liberated. So he gets liberated from the three modes. 14.26 Bhagavad Gita. A devotee goes beyond the three modes. Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate brahma bhuyaya. He naturally gets liberated. He doesn't have to separately endeavor to get liberated. And in fact, in the fourth canto, it is mentioned that devotee does not need liberation. He doesn't want liberation. Still, Lord gives him liberation. Why? Because it is just like a person who is a billionaire and he has chintamani. He can distribute chintamani jewel. But ordinary people of the world, they don't know what is chintamani. So they don't put faith in this person. Well, pata nahi kya baat raha hai. Chintamani kya hota hai? Aaj tak dekha hi nahi. So to gain their faith, he starts distributing gold also. Because ordinary people, they know gold. So he gives gold and then people develop faith. He has gold. And then after that, he says, I have something better. I am distributing chintamani. So that is what Mahaprabhu does. So he is distributing prema ratana dhan. And the Supreme Lord, when he distributes prema ratan dhan, ordinary people think, pata nahi kya baat rahe. It is not worth, it seems. Kuch to cheap, it is cheap. So Lord says, you will get liberated automatically. Because for people, liberation is the best, moksha. But Lord says, Arey, moksha is insignificant. Chintamani can create gold. So a devotee automatically gets liberated. But ordinary people have no faith. So therefore, in the case of Prithu Maharaj, it comes. The Lord gave him liberation also, although he was already a liberated soul. Why? To have faith in common people in the process of devotional service. So that's how it is. So this ignorance gradually disappears. Shanai tirodhatte. And how it happens? Nivritti dharmena. It arises because of the destruction of impressions in the subtle body. So the misconception of the self-identity is diminished gradually. Shanai tirodhatte. How? Bhagavad Bhakti Yogena, by the process of devotional service. And it happens, this bhakti comes only by Vasudeva Anukampaya. Only by the mercy of the Lord one can achieve devotional service. Otherwise, nobody can achieve devotional service, even if they try for millions of lifetimes. Athapi te deva padambuja dvaya prasadalesha nugrihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. Athapi te deva padambuja. If somebody doesn't get mercy of the Lord, prasad, they cannot know the Lord. That's what Gopinath Acharya tells Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when he is arguing. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is supreme? Lord is Triyogi. Lord does not appear in Kali Yuga. So Gopinath Acharya says that is about Leela Avatar. Mahaprabhu is Yuga Avatar. And says, no, I can't accept it. So Gopinath Acharya says, you have personally seen also how he manifested Mahabhava, which is not possible for any person of this world. Still you have no faith because you have not received the mercy of the Lord. Unless one receives the mercy, one can never understand. So only by Vasudeva Anukampa one can understand the Lord. So Prabhupada writes, as discussed in the first canto, because the application of devotional service invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches from material conception. Which verse Prabhupada is paraphrasing here?
1.2.7.
Vasudeve Bhagavati Akinchana nahi. And
Jnanam and Vairagyam.
हाँ ज्ञानम चयत हेतुकम. आपको याद थोड़ा ये, these are the common verses which we should always remember. Invites pure knowledge and quickly detaches. Doesn't have to wait for it to come. And then Prabhupada writes, if somebody is just working hard and not giving to Krishna, whether he is a karmi, whether he is a jnani or he is a yogi, he will not get the result. Bhakti is the active catalyst which drives all these reactions. If bhakti element is not there, a karmi will not get the result, a jnani will not get, yogi will not get any mystic power. Where it is mentioned, all the karma should be ultimately offered to the Lord. Bhagavad Gita may be here. And Bhagavatam says, if you are not offering your results to Krishna, it is Shramayevi Kevalam.
Nine chapter में.
Bhagavad Gita.
Whatever you do, whatever you
Whatever
offer.
we do,
Whatever you do,
offer it to
whatever you
Lord.
offer.
Yes, that is there. Yat karoshi yadashnasi
Yat karoshi
yajjuhoshi.
yadashnasi.
Ayat karoshi.
ठीक है. But even if you are offering, even if you are a Nishkam Karma Yogi, if you are not offering to Krishna, you will not get perfection. First canto, 5th chapter, Narad Muni is telling something. Naishkarmyam api achyut bhava varjitam na shobhate. Even if you are doing Naishkarmya, but it is without achyut bhav. If you are not offering to Krishna, you will not get the result. And about Jnanis also it is mentioned, one wonderful verse, Brahmaji speaks, if a Jnani does not connect to Krishna, then all his endeavors are like, he gives an example. They are like beating the empty husks of rice. Nothing will come out. Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti. It is all painful. Klishyantiye kevala bodha labdhaye. Only thing he will get is pain. And the result is also painful. The path is painful. Tesham asau kleshal eva shishyate. The path is troublesome. The end is also troublesome. Nanyad yatha sthula tusha avaghatinam. Sthula tusha. Tusha means the husk. If somebody is beating the husk. Where in Bhagavad Gita this is said? For the Gyanis, the path is troublesome and the end is also troublesome.
12th chapter,
Okay, where?
12.2 na?
14 chapter.
12th chapter when Arjuna asked,
Yeah, 12th chapter, I think third or
Kleshu
third.
adhikaras tesha.
Klesho adhikataras, yes. Thank you. Klesho adhikataras tesh avyakta asakta. Avyakta hi gati dukkha. So for Gyanis, everything is painful. So Prabhupada writes about all this. Unless somebody is not worshipping Krishna, all his endeavors are useless labor, fruitless labor. And pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire for fruitive activities and mental speculation, philosophical speculation. Which verse says this? Pure devotee has no material desires. Desire of karma and jnana is also not there. Bhakti ka definition kya hai? Pure devotional service definition. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. And then Prabhupada writes, because यहाँ पे it is mentioned, unless one receives the mercy of the Lord. Mercy of Lord कैसे मिलेगा? Prabhupada writes, one has to associate with pure devotees. Such association alone can, by degrees, release one from quivering elements. So without mercy of the Lord, nothing happens. Today Amarendra Prabhu was giving class in Chowpatty. Such beautiful nectar flow. So he spoke a very nice verse about the power of devotees. He said, Chandanam Shitalam Loke, Chandanadapi Chandrama, Chandana Chandana Yor Madhye. So he says, Chandanam Shitalam, the most cooling thing in this world is Chandan. Chandanadapi Chandrama, even better than Chandan is the cooling beams of the moon. But Chandana Chandanayor Madhye, even if amongst this, better than this is Shitala Sadhu Sangati. The association of devotees is even more cooling and purifying than these two things. Only by association one can get mercy of the Lord. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, I think I told this earlier also. नहीं भागवतम में नहीं है. He's quoting from some other scripture. So in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is one verse which is mentioned. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami is mentioning. He says, there is doubt if a worshipper of Krishna will get liberation. But there is no doubt that a worshipper of devotee will get liberation. I think last time also I had something. Siddhir bhavati vaneti samshaya achyut sevinam. Samshaya. Nishamshayastu tad bhakta paricharya ratatmana. There is no doubt that if somebody is worshipping the devotee, he will achieve liberation or not. Perfection milega ki nahi? Koi doubt nahi hai. 100% guarantee. Because by worshipping a devotee, of course, one will know Krishna very nicely. And then he says, if somebody is worshipping Krishna, the amount of purification one gets is not as thorough as the purification one gets by serving the devotee of the Lord. Kevalam bhagavat pada sevaya nirmala manaha na jayate yatha nityam na jayate yatha nityam tadbhakta charanarchana tadbhakta charanarchana. So that's how if somebody worships the devotees, serves the devotees, in association of devotees, for sure one gets purified. Then in the 13th verse, he mentions, what is the principle behind this devotional service? That is he's mentioning in the 13th verse. How to attain the mercy of the Lord? आप बोल रहे हैं mercy मिलेगा, कृपा मिलेगा, कैसे मिलेगा भगवान का कृपा? He says, satisfy the senses of the Lord. That is the secret to get mercy of the Lord. यदेन्द्रियोपरामोऽथ द्रष्ट्रात्मनि परेहरौ विलीयन्ते तदा क्लेशाः संसुप्तः
Senses are satisfied.
When the senses are satisfied,
When the senses are
satisfied in the seer, super soul. Yeah. बढ़िया माताजी. When the senses are satisfied in the seer, super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as after a sound sleep.
So very relevant example. मतलब अच्छा नींद देने के बाद कैसा मिजरी सब खत्म. So that's how one feels free from the miseries when the senses of super soul are satisfied. So we can't stop working. We can just engage our senses in service of the Lord. Yada indriya uparamaha, when the senses are satisfied, drashtra atmani, and in the super soul. That means by serving the Lord, when the senses are satisfied, then automatically all the miseries are vanquished.
What is merge in him?
Merge in him means working only for him. The senses are only working for Lord's satisfaction. That gives the greatest satisfaction, joy. And even if a devotee suffers some problems, that suffering is the greatest cause of joy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes a bhajan. Anyone remembers? Oh my Lord, whatever miseries I am going through in your service, they are the greatest cause of my joy, because those miseries, they destroy the ignorance of my heart. Tomar sevaya dukkha hoye jata seyo to parama sukha. Seva sukha dukkha parama sampada nashaye avidya dukkha. So seva sukha dukkha, whatever happiness and the distress I am going through in your seva, that can destroy avidya dukkha. So Prabhupada writes that impersonalists, they want to stop the work. They want to merge in the super soul. But devotees, they don't want to stop their material activities. They want to engage in service of the Lord. Because the consciousness is active. You cannot stop working. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks this. 3rd chapter, 5th verse. A living entity is by nature active. Kaun sa shloka hai? Main bhi bol raha hu. One cannot stop working, because it is the nature of the soul to be active. Nahi kaschit shanam api jatu tishtati akarmakrit. One cannot stop acting because it is the nature of the soul to be active. So he says, you cannot, Prabhupada gives example, you cannot artificially stop a mischievous child. You have to give a positive, better engagement to the child. Vishaya vinivartante. So all the senses can be satisfied when they are engaged in service of the Lord. Ambrish Maharaj ka famous prayers shlok kaun sa hai? Ambrish Maharaj engaged all his senses in service of the Lord. So yes, Savai Manaha, all the senses and the mind were engaged in service of the Lord. So then one can be satisfied. So Prabhupada writes, our activities must be so transcendently saturated that the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably and engage us in devotional service. So that is the understanding. Last line Prabhupada writes. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, when is anartha nivritti complete? He says, according to Jnana, this takes place when the senses and the functions of the mind are destroyed. Uparama. Jnanis, what they do? They will destroy all the senses. We don't want to do anything. We just want to merge in Brahman. This is indicated by removal of all active senses during deep sleep. Just like deep sleep, no senses are active. Similarly, Jnanis think our sense actions will stop. When the jiva realizes Bhagavan, by bhakti, then actually suffering stops. By gyan, by the process of gyan, this suffering doesn't stop completely. Complete removal of suffering will not happen. According to the bhakti, when the senses such as eyes and become fixed in the Lord, then suffering is destroyed. So basically he is saying that all the activities of the senses, of our ears, eyes, nose, skin, tongue, whatever, all of them should be engaged in Krishna's service. Then one can be satisfied. So this is how the Lord can be pacified. And he says, samsuptasya. Samsuptasya means a person who has a deep sleep. Medical terms में NREM sleep. So without any dreams. So that's what Chakravarti Thakur writes. It is like a person whose sleep is not broken by dreams. The suffering of seeing one's head cut off in a dream are all destroyed. If sapna hi nahi aayega, to dream mein cut off, head will cut off. It will not happen. So that's what he's describing. Okay, then he says,
This sleep is always also described as unconscious or the death.
Sorry?
Deep sleep is also described as unconscious.
There are 4 stages. कैसे शुरू होता है वो? जागृत, स्वप्न, susupti, and turiya. So swapna means when we have dreams. Susupti means a deep sleep when there is no dreams. But still in that state also mind is at the consciousness is still there. But turiya means when that consciousness is also gone. That is the stage of liberation from all this mind, intelligence, and ego. That is a complete, actually, 3rd Canto Kapila in the 28th chapter or 27th chapter, he tells, how can you realize that what it feels to be liberated? Go to deep sleep when there are no dreams.
So, for a conditioned soul, Turiya won't come. Only these 3 stages will be there.
Correct.
So, the Susupti is like unconscious or like death till you get the new body.
You can say, yes, say like that. When there is no consciousness of even the mind. Mind is active, that means dreams are there. Mind is also not active, that means it is susupti, deep sleep. So it is like no disturbance also.
But this is very painful, then how you can compare it to deep sleep? Because, what my understanding is when the Atma leaves the body, it really struggles and it's very painful. But it's not that a pleasurable.
He says, Kapila says, a living entity can experience liberation in this material world in 2 conditions. Either you go to deep sleep, and at the end of the day of Brahma, when all the living entities merge in the body of Mahavishnu or Garbhodaksha Vishnu, the subtle body is also not there. It is given to the jivas when they are again impregnated. The jiva, which is when it is there in the body of the Lord, they are liberated souls. But Kapila says still that liberation is very painful. Because the desires are still there. He is not free of that desire. It is like a person who is stripped of his wealth. Although the person, he is free, liberated, but still because he is attached to that wealth, that liberation is not, blissful experience for him. So for a soul to get liberated, he says, wait for 2 things, either deep sleep or pralaya. Then you will experience liberation. But that is also painful liberation. So yes, death is painful. Susupti, Prabhupada writes, what is death? It is like a state of deep sleep for 7 months. Prabhupada writes in one of the purports in this third canto mein aayega. So in that way one can say, but of course death is painful reality. It is not like sleeping. Okay, so then between Gyan and Bhakti, which is better in producing destruction of ignorance? Bhakti, so that's what is described in the next verse. Very, very famous verse. Very beautiful verse. Because the question was, how the living entities, they are suffering because of misidentification. So misidentification comes, how it can be removed? By serving the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord. How Lord will be merciful? By satisfying the senses of the Lord. How the Lord's senses can be satisfied? Two ways, jnana or bhakti. Which is better? Bhakti. अशेष शंक्लेश समम विधत्ते गुणानुवाद श्रवणं मुरारेः किं वा पुनस्तच्चरणारविन्द
न पुनश्च चरणारविन्द
रागसेवा रतिरात्मलब्धा
रागसेवारतिरात्मलब्धः.
The transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what we speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus, Lord's lotus feet.
अशेष संक्लेश शमम, unlimited miserable conditions can be destroyed. Cessation happens when Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare, simply by chanting and hearing of the Lord. This is sadhana bhakti. At the stage of sadhana bhakti also, Ashesha Shankilesha Shamam. Then Kim Va, abhi kya bole? You know, this is like कैमूति का न्याय. क्या बोले उन लोगों का जो भाव भक्ति कर रहे हैं. किम वा पुनः, what to speak of those who have attained parag seva rati, who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of Tacharana Ravinda. So that is how Rag Bhav Bhakti is so, Sadhan Bhakti is so powerful. What to speak of Bhava Bhakti. So Prabhupada writes about practicing sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti in the purport also. So he says there are two different methods of controlling the senses, jnana and bhakti. Of these two, bhakti is the better path because it is very, very easy to perform. You can engage your senses. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasa sadhana vidha. Nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam riddhi sadhyata. That is sadhana bhakti, engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. So first stage is sadhan, then second is raganuga bhakti. And by practicing of raga bhakti, one can attain perfection. One can even control the supreme powerful Lord. That's how sadhana bhakti. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, sadhana bhakti destroys ignorance. How much more results bhava bhakti will produce, which is the goal of sadhana bhakti. And one should not think the chief result of rati is the destruction of ignorance. That is a byproduct. What is the best result of bhava? One brings the Lord under his control. Evam sandarshita hi anga harina bhritya vashyata swavashenapi krishnena yasyedam sa ishwaram vashe. That supreme Lord who is controlling entire universe, he comes under the control of his devotees. The gopis say, oh Krishna, you dance, we'll give you sweet, and Krishna dances. You sing, I'll give you makkan, and Krishna is dancing. That's how Krishna comes under the control of his gopis. Mora putra, mora sakha, mora pranapati, yehi shuddha bhave je kore mora bhakti. Apana ke bada mane amare samaheen. So if somebody thinks that he is greater and I am subordinate, that bhakti attracts me. Braj bhav, that is braj bhav. If the gopas, they say, what type of big person you are, yesterday only I defeated you. So that attracts Krishna. If the gopis, they chastise Krishna, that chastisement is more sweeter than the Veda Stuti. Priya more mana kori kore bhartsan sarva Veda Stuti hoye hare moraman. So that's how Bhav Bhakti and Prem Bhakti conquers the mind. So then after Maitreya Muni, he describes wonderfully these two questions, how the Lord is affected and how the Jiva is suffering. So he says, no, Lord never gets affected. He is always spiritual. He never comes in touch with the material world. And the Jivas, they suffer because of ignorance. misidentification. And that misidentification, is can be destroyed by service to the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord. Mercy of the Lord will come by serving the senses of the Lord. And Lord can be served in two ways, jnana and bhakti. And out of that, bhakti is better. So after this, Vidurji is now expressing his gratitude in the 15th verse. Vidura uvacha tava sukta sina vibho ubhayatrami bhagavan mano me bhavati.
O powerful sage, my lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them.
Ubhayatrapi bhagavan. So, in one purport, Prabhupada writes in the 4th canto, who is called as Bhagavan? Because generally we call Bhagavan as Supreme Lord, but in many places, many great sages, Maitreya, Narad Muni, they are also called as Bhagavan. So he says there are 3 types of people who are called as Bhagavan. Just a minute, I'll find out. Very nicely he describes there are 3 types of personalities who can be called as Bhagavan. Yeah. If he's a great personality, this is mentioned in 4:23:30. If he is a great personality who exhibits extraordinary and uncommon features, he is called as Bhagavan. Second, if he attains the greatest goal after his disappearance, if he is liberated, he is called as Bhagavan. Third, when he knows the difference between the knowledge and ignorance, he is also called as Bhagavan. So 3 types of people can be called as Bhagavan. Otherwise, ordinary people, they are not called as Bhagavan. So he says, O Bhagavan, O my Lord, Sanchinnaha, you have cut off. Sanshayaha, all my doubts. Mahyam. How you have cut? Tava sukta asina. Asina means sword, by your convincing words. Krishna also says Arjuna also says something like this. Tasmat, Krishna is telling to Arjuna, Tasmat Ajnana Sambhutam, 4.42 he says, Tasmat Ajnana Sambhutam, Ritstam Jnana Asina, Chitvainam Sanshayam Yogam Atishta Uttishta Bharata. Similar verse. Oh Arjuna, just get up and fight, and with this sword of knowledge, cut off. Sanchinna Sanshayo. That's what he's saying also. Tava sukta asina, by your sword of knowledge, you have perfectly cut off all my doubts. Mano me sampradhavati, my mind is perfectly entering into them. That means my mind is completely purified of doubts. So Prabhupada writes, yeah, somebody can read the purport.
The signs of Krishna or the signs of God and the living entity is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like sage Maitreya. Doubts about eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways. But the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the 3 dominator and the 3 dominated. The Lord is external predominator and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process of such revival is devotional service to the Lord. Okay, so that's how the process of devotional service can purify and destroy all the doubts. Because for a doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Which verse? Agyascha ashraddhanascha sanshayatma vinashyati. I think 4.49, 39 and 40, 2 verses Krishna tells. 4.39 he says, what is the destination of the faithless person?
Agya ashraddadana sanshaya vinashyati nayam lokosti na paro na sukham sanshaya. And then 40th verse he says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. So doubts should be destroyed. They should never be kept in the mind. They should be always uprooted. Otherwise, doubts are like demons. They can destroy the faith of a devotee. Okay, next verse, he continues. Sadhu etadvyaritam vidwan natma mayayanam hareh abhatyapartham nirmulam vishwamulam nayad bahihi.
O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbances to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of external energy of the mind.
So now he is telling what he has learned. It is not that बहुत अच्छा सिखाया आपने, क्या सिखाया वो मत पूछिए. He is paraphrasing also what he has learned from Maitreya. Sadhu etat vyaharitam. Your explanations are wonderful. That's how it begins. And then he explains, just like abhati apartham nirmulam. This entire world is without meaning if it is not connected to the Lord. All the disturbances have no meaning because other than movement of the external energy. When people come under the influence of external energy, they suffer. When they are under internal energy, they are happy. So Prabhupada writes, the living entity's unlawful desire to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of material manifestation. That's why Lord has created this world. In Bhagavad Gita, one verse, Krishna says, Yayedam dharyate jagat. The living entities are maintaining this universe. ऐसा क्या कर रहे हैं? Living entities are maintaining this universe. Yayedam dharyate jagat, it comes. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it is actually sarcastic comment. It is as if saying these prisoners are maintaining the prison house. Because they are there, prison house is there. So all these living entities are maintaining this universe, means because of them this universe is being made, so that they can get rectified. People, they don't understand, they don't rectify, they keep on suffering. And then again Prabhupada writes, after getting frustrated in all respects, people want to become God. That is a nas snare of Maya. And 17th is very, very wonderful, very famous verse. Two types of people are happy in this world. Two types of students are happy. जिसने सब पढ़ लिया है, 4 बार पढ़ के ब्लेसिंग दे रहा है सबको जाके, कोई बात नहीं, पास हो जाएगा. दूसरा वाला पढ़ ही नहीं है, 4 बार फेल हो गया है, 4 बार हुआ, 1 बार और सही. Who are distressed, थोड़ा पढ़ाई किया है, पास भी होना है, पता नहीं होगा कि नहीं. So that is the student who is most stressed. आप लोग चिंता मत करिए, आप सब पास हो जाएंगे. Anyways, so he says there are two types of living entities who are happy: Mudha and Buddhe Param. Those who are grossly ignorant and those who are liberated. बीच वाले जो है ना, they are always suffering. उनकी इंद्र तृप्ति की इच्छा गई भी नहीं है और प्योर डिवोटी भी बनना है, so that's why they are always suffering.
The lowest of the fools is the
material sense gratifier. Yeah, gross materialists. Fools means they don't understand the value of life. They are foolish. They are absorbed. They are happy. The person who is drunk and fallen in the gutter, he is not realizing how he is suffering. So for him, it is tension. He is not aware of his condition.
There are gradations of Buddhas also. Buddha Tama.
हाँ, मूड उत्तम, मतलब बीच वाले थोड़े से रहते हैं ना, मूड उत्तम, मतलब all these are middle वाले are मूड so जो मूड उत्तम है, पक्का ignorant, he suffers. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. So, कब तक ignorance is bliss? Just for time being, As when Prabhupada बोलते हैं ना, there are a king met 4 types of people. He met a sadhu, a brahmachari, liberated soul, and a son of a king. So son of a king, he said, Rajaputra Jehovah, you keep living. And then he met a brahmachari. He said, you die, better you die. And then he met a sage. He said, better you die or live. Either you die or live. And then he met a butcher. He said, neither you die nor you live. So why? For a king's son, he said, better you live, because you are doing so many sinful activities of ruling and killing animals. If you go to hell, you will suffer there. Better you live. And then second was, you are doing so much of sacrifice, you are already suffering. Better you die. You go to higher destinations, you will enjoy there. And for a devotee, he says, better live or die, it is same for you. You are serving Krishna here, you are serving Krishna after you go to next destination. And for a butcher, your current life is miserable. After death, you are still will be miserable. So that's how it is. Okay. Yascha mudhatamo loke. Yascha buddheh param gatah. Tau sukhame dhete.
Tau bhav sukham
Tarito
epete
janaha.
drishyate anatirochana. Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs.
So the material enjoyment gives the illusion of happiness. Yeah, it is all illusion. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Kutra Shisha Shruti Sukha Mrig Trishni Rupa. It is all Mrig Trishna. It is all Shruti Sukha. The best peak of enjoyment is when you plan for it. मजा आएगा, इधर जाएंगे उधर जाएंगे, ये करेंगे वो करेंगे, मजा आएगा, श्रुति सुख सुनने में ही मजा आता है. आज संडे फीस्ट में पकोड़ा ये सब कुछ भी नहीं है. तो सुनने में मजा आता है, So that's how Shruti Sukha. So it says Kutra Ashisha, where is auspiciousness in this world? It is all Shruti Sukha. It is all Mrit Trishni Rupa. But if somebody leaves material enjoyment and doesn't get the bliss of bhakti also, that is the most miserable state. मुझे बोला था chant Hare Krishna and be happy. इधर तो किधर happy, इधर तो तपस्या ही तपस्या चल रहा है. It is as if entering a long tunnel. इधर का लाइट चला गया, इधर का लाइट दिख नहीं रहा है. बीच में अटके हुए हैं. हमको क्या क्या सपने दिखाए थे प्रभु जी ने. You serve and you will become blissful. अरे किधर blissful, सेवा कर करके परेशान हो गए, कभी कृपा नहीं मिल रहा है कृष्ण का. So that's how sadhaka bhakta can become miserable if he is not tasting that nectar of bhakti. So that's how Ladini Karaye Krishna Ananda Swadan Ladinira Dware Kore Bhaktera Poshan. If devotees feel dry in their Krishna consciousness, that means they are not getting in touch with Ladini Shakti.
इझी असेल ना, सारखं ते काय काय बनवा, प्रेझेंटेशन खूप असतात.
So that's how we have to be in touch with Ladini Shakti by our sincere prayas and efforts of our hearing and chanting and serving in right consciousness. If we go away from the purpose of our all these Shravana Kirtan and we are absorbed in just doing things, not realizing why I'm doing it, then in due course of time we get frustrated. We start getting away from, because we don't get the rasa of bhakti. So that is very deadly for a devotee. As in the Christian tradition, they say the black night, the dark night of the soul. Even after getting into spiritual life, if somebody is not getting in touch with the rasa of bhakti, that is a dark night of the soul. So devotee can go through that stage if they are not trained in Krishna consciousness properly, if they are not told that this is what you should look for, this is what you should endeavor for. And if somebody is endeavoring and praying and really serious and sincere, for sure Krishna will go give mercy. If it is not happening, then means there is something which is missing in his process of bhakti, in this attempt to practice bhakti. That is very, very dangerous for a sadhaka. Prabhupada writes, the lowest of the fools do not understand material miseries. They pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of the life. Just like a hog's life, Prabhupada gives an example. He doesn't realize that he is suffering. So they live in a filthy place, engage in sex enjoyment, labor hard, but this is unknown to hog. Similarly, people who are just grossly ignorant, they think this is how life is. I am working hard, then I get to eat nice, then I get to enjoy also. Okay. They look peaceful. So those who are grossly sense gratifiers, they look peaceful sometimes. And pure devotees also look peaceful. Beach wale jo hain, they are always miserable. Klishyati antarito janah. In that klishyati, that antar, in that duration, we need to give support to the devotees. That support is very much needed. Otherwise, the devotees, they will give up because the material nature keeps testing. So everyone needs support in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Their faith should always be protected. Okay, so now, how to elevate oneself to the level of absolute truth? You are saying only liberated souls are happy, beach wale sab pareshan hai, so how to get liberated? How to get elevated? He says there is only one way, by serving. Because serving devotees can give everything. 3 effects of service are mentioned in the next verse. Arthabhavam vinishchitya pratitasyapi natmanaha tacchapi yushmacchana sevaya anude. 19, these 3 effects are mentioned. Yes. Translation.
But my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance. Although it appears real, I am confident that by serving your faith, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea.
So first effect of service is what? By serving, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. Artha abhava vinishchitya. Now I can understand that this material world is without any substance. Artha ka abhav hai yahan pe. There is no real thing. It is all illusory. Pratitasya api, although it appears real, but it is not real. Any pleasure of this world is not real. It is just a dream. It is just a glamour. It is not actual happiness. And I am confident that tam chapi yushmat charana seva. If I am serving your lotus feet, then I will be able to give up this false idea. Yeah, translation, purport, somebody can read.
The suffering of the conditioned souls are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting of the one's head in a dream. Yet, although this statement is theoretically very true, it is very difficult for the common man or the unified transcendental path to realize practically. However, by serving the feet of the great transcendents like Maitreya Muni and by automatically association with them, one is enabled to give up the false idea that the souls of its own material things.
So ordinary materialist can never understand ये इसमें और उसमें क्या connection है. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami, when he went to Nityanand Prabhu and he said, I want to go and serve Mahaprabhu. I am entangled in this material world. So what solution Nityanand Prabhu gives? क्या करते हैं वो? बोलते हैं जितने भी डिवोटी हैं सबको चिड़ा दही खिलाओ. बोले मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ, ये क्या solution दे रहे हैं? Is there any connection between serving devotees and my getting liberated? Yes, there is a connection. By serving the devotees, one gets the mercy of the Lord. In first canto, 15th chapter, when Arjuna is remembering all those things which Krishna did for him in the Khanda forest, that story also he remembers. In that, Prabhupada writes a very brilliant line. He says, by the mercy of the Lord, one gets the mercy of the devotees, and by the mercy of the devotees, one gets the chance to serve. Says by the mercy of the devotee, one gets the blessings, mercy of the Lord, and by the mercy of the Lord, one gets a chance to serve the devotees of the Lord. So it is a triangle. भक्त का कृपा मिला तो भगवान का कृपा मिलेगा, भगवान का कृपा मिला तो क्या हुआ? सेवा मिलेगा. So if you are getting service, that means Krishna is pleased. So that is the equation in spiritual life. By serving the feet of the great transcendentalists, one can come out of this misconception. So knowledge is required. That's what we are doing here. But combination of knowledge and service leads to realization. We are not here to become the scholars of Bhagavatam. We are here to serve Bhagavatam. Serving Bhagavatam means two types of Bhagavatas, book Bhagavat and person Bhagavat. Otherwise, there are many scholars in the world also. They are also scholars of Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, but they are not devotees. So we are not here to become the scholars of Bhagavatam. We are here to become the servants of Bhagavatam. So that is. And next is a very important, very interesting verse. Two more effects of service. Yat sevaya bhagavataha bhutastasya madhudushaha padayor vyasanardanaha.
By serving the feet of the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon and whose service vanquishes one's material distresses.
Yat sevaya, by serving the devotees, what will happen? Tivra rati rasaha, intense rasa of bhava bhakti. This is the Chakravarti Thakur's translation. Tivra rati rasaha, intense rasa of bhava bhakti will develop unto Bhagavataha, unto the Lord. That Lord who is kutasthasya, who is fixed in one form, and madhudvishaha, he destroys the obstacles in the path of devotional service. And byproduct will be what? Destruction of material suffering. Padayor vyasanardanaha. So the second effect is, first effect was, I'll give up the false idea. Second, intense rasa of bhav will develop. Third, destruction of material suffering will take place. These three effects of serving the great souls are there. So Prabhupada elaborates on rati rasaha. Rati will develop. There are 5 kinds of rati. So one will develop attachment and service to the Lord, and by serving the devotees of the Lord. And then he says, don't think service to devotees is so easily available. One gets the service of the great souls after many, many lifetimes. It is very, very rare. Durapa hi alpa tapasaha seva vaikunthavatmasu yatro piyate nityam deva devo janardanaha.
Persons whose austerity is meager and can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead. The Vaikunthas, pure devotees, engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities.
Durapa hi alpa tapasaha, persons whose austerity is meager. Seva Vaikunthavartmasu. This is a very important word. Vaikunthavartmasu. That means those who are progressing on the path, that is, they are not yet liberated. That means they are sadhaka bhaktas. So one should not feel, जब तक मुझे शुद्ध भक्त का सेवा नहीं मिलेगा कैसे मेरे को मुक्ति होगा? How will I advance? Arey, serving sadhak bhakta is also very rare. It is not easily available in this material universe. Seva Vaikuntha Vartamasu, one can hardly obtain. Yatra Upagiyate Nityam, the devotees of the Lord engage in glorifying the Supreme Lord always, who is Devadev and who is Janardhan. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when they said that the service to devotees is rare, only a person who has not done sufficient austerities, he gets the service. But it is just a conventional way of saying. Actually, it is not the case. Because material austerity can never give you devotion. So it is just a way to say, "Arey, kitna rare hai malum hai." Because service to the devotees is attained only by the mercy of the devotees, not by austerities. Yat karmabhir yat tapasa jnana vairagya yat yogena dana dharmena shreyobhiritarayarapi. Jo bhi aapka gun hai, unless you don't get the mercy of the Lord, unless you are blessed by the Lord, it will not give effect. Tapasvino, danapara, manasvino, yashashvino, manasvino, mantravido, sumangala, shemam na vindanti. They will not get perfection if they don't offer to Krishna. So if they don't get the mercy of the devotees, they will not get bhakti. So it is a conventional expression. And he says those who are on the path to Vaikuntha means those who are constantly engaged in sadhana bhakti or sadhya bhakti. Either they are sadhak bhaktas or prem bhaktas. Dono ki seva rare hai. It is not that only a pure devotee service is rare. A sadhak bhakta service is also rare. So this is how wonderfully this conversation is happening between Maitreya Muni and Vidurji. They are both.
My understanding, sadhana bhakta service is also very rare. So we don't get any service to do for sadhana bhakta.
We are getting, right? So इतना सेवा मिल रहा है ना, आपको सेवा नहीं मिल रहा है, सेवा दीजिए तो मिलता है.
I'm just trying to understand. Rare, but
So rare, yeah, we are getting such a rare thing. That's what it is described. It is very, very rare. So just because we are getting in ample, we should not take it lightly. Or itna seva mil gaya, pata nahi. It is very rare opportunity. So that's why we have to remind ourselves कि भाई जो मिल रहा है, it is very rare. Otherwise, we'll take it cheaply. We are getting so much because it is mercy of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has brought the highest for the lowest, So that is the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, it is said in 5th Canto, even the great sages of Satya Yuga, they want to take birth in Kali Yuga. Why? Because of two reasons, they say. First, it is described that in Kali Yuga, you get the highest very easily. Quota system chal raha hai yahan pe, You don't have to work hard to get admission in names. 35% भी लाओगे तो आपका admission दे देंगे हम, That is what Mahaprabhu's mercy is. Second, he says, you don't find many prem bhaktas at one place in Satya Yuga. There are many devotees, they are assembled and they are there at one place in Kali Yuga. In Satya Yuga, it is not the case. Somebody is in one Himalaya, one mountain, other ये इधर जंगल में तपस्या कर रहे हैं, दूसरे उधर जंगल में, because process was what? Tapasya, meditation. Kali Yuga में संकीर्तन है. Yeah, they come together and chant. That's why sages say, इतना सस्ते में मिल रहा है और it is a केवल आनंद कंड तो फिर उधर ही जन्म ले लेते हैं ना. That is the mercy of Mahaprabhu. That's why it is so very rare. Yatropagiyate. So both Maitreya Muni and Vidurji, they are expressing gratitude Vidurji is expressing his gratitude. Whatever I have learned, I am so very grateful. Okay, so then Vidurji, he inquires more. And so many other questions he asks from 21st to 38th verse. So we'll keep on reading them. And whenever needed, I'll just speak something. Yeah, somebody can read from 21 to 38.
After only translation.
Only translation.
After creating the total.
I think एक पढ़ सकते हैं सब लोग.
After
One
creating the
verses.
total material energy, then Mahatattva, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs. The Supreme Lord entered within it.
So basically, what he is doing is, these are the similar questions which Parikshit Maharaj asked in the 8th chapter, 2nd canto. So with those questions in mind, Vidurji is asking similar questions and some more questions he asks. Yeah.
The Purusha incarnation lying on the casual ocean is called the original Purusha.
Casual नहीं, causal. Causal and casual में अंतर है.
Causal ocean is called the original Purusha, nematic creation, and in his Virat form, in whom all the planets and their inhabitants live. He has many thousands of legs and hands.
So in these two verses, he is making a background of the questions. He says, Lord entered into Mahatattva, then lies in the ocean, Virat Rupa is created. So now, kindly explain to me. He starts from the next verse. Yes.
So great Brahmana,